welcome to episode number 64 of the NordCast. I think it's episode number 64. It is Thursday, July 25th, 2024. I am your host, Nordic97, who is bored as hell in the offseason. I think I said that last episode. I'm joined here with Carter. Carter, how we doing?
Hi. We're doing good. I'm tired again, but I think I'll have more energy, so that'll be fun.
It's good to hear. Carter's going on vacation next week, so on the bright side, he'll be able to catch up on his sleep because he works zombie hours at the rink. No Jack today. Jack just, the times couldn't line up. I have no idea what Jack's doing. Probably sitting and standing in one end of the basketball court the entire time like he does. And we have a guest for the second time, ironically. So I gotta explain this a little bit before I introduce him. So we had this certain guy on. I think it was late April, early May. And it was the middle of the first round. I remember vividly, we interviewed him. We talked about Toronto versus Boston. Carter was on a cruise ship. Jack was doing God knows what. His audio was also not too great. It was just a disaster of an episode, and we were planning on uploading it anyways. But Carter could not, his audio could not process because the internet on his cruise ship was about as good as the Jets were in the playoffs. No,
hey, we won one game, okay? Let's settle down. We won one game, and not one bit of my audio got uploaded. So my audio and my Wi-Fi was about as good as the Washington Capitals, okay? We can set it at that.
All right, yeah. So it was an episode that got completely scrapped, and we're bringing him back on now in July. We have Zach Staden joining us today. How are you doing, Zach? What an intro.
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be back on. I did predict my Leafs would lose. They did, and in fashion in Game 7.
I believe you did say that.
And, I'm just happy to be on and talk some hockey.
Yeah, you are the first person ever to appear on their first episode twice. So congratulations. You get a special thing that probably no one else will get, to be honest with you.
It is one of the most unbreakable records on NordCast.
Yep,
Iconic.
NordCast history. So one thing that we do for pretty much every single one of our creators that we bring on, we always ask them this first question. You might remember us asking it the first time. How did you get into hockey?
Oh, man. I was a young lad. My family was just big hockey fans, played it all the way growing up. I was never, too fancy with it. I mean, I played AA, and that's it. Never even sniffed AAA, so it was always just a fun time. It's something I enjoyed and something that I never really started getting into in the creation aspect until about my, started my third year at university, and then ever since that time to now, it's almost been 2 years, I've just kind of loved it. I mean, hockey's always been something special in my heart. It's always been something I love following, and I mean, I love my Leafs, but they make me not want to play, do anything about hockey. So I mean,
it's a rough relationship to have, I gotta be honest.
It's a tough relationship, but yeah, no, nothing too special with it, but definitely something that is deep in my heart for it.
Where'd you go to college? Or where are you going to college if you're still there?
So I'm actually just finishing up at the University of Ottawa. Go GGs. Love it there. Great spot if you're thinking about going there and you're in Canada, or even if you're in the US, why not, or anywhere else. Go to Ottawa. Great spot. I would recommend it. Awesome town. Team there is iffy right now, but I mean, that's, we'll see.
Well, heading into my senior year of high school, would you recommend me going to the University of Ottawa?
Depends what you want to do, but I would say so. Although I can very much say in full confidence that U Sports and NCAA are very different.
For sure. Oh, absolutely.
But Panda Games, that's the spot to be at. I say look it up.
Yes, I'll keep that in mind. So you talked a little bit about getting into content creation. How did that start, and how did it develop into what it is today with your Instagram and your 2 TikTok accounts? How did that start?
Man. So it was a random day. I think it was around Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving. And I just saw TikTok was kind of getting a little bit bigger, and I wanted to create a video. And I was like, you know what? Who cares about my opinion? Who cares what I think about whatever? I'll upload something. I can't exactly remember what it was. It might have been one of those videos where it's stopping this when I get a team better than, or something like that. And I just uploaded it. And just kept doing it. I like doing it. I got traction really quickly, which I'm very grateful for. But that definitely helped me in being I guess people do kind of want this content. And I just kept doing that. did some interviews, did all that type of stuff. TikTok was something that I did for a while until I started Instagram. And then I really branched out with my Twitter and podcast and then the second account. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I'm just, like I said, very grateful for what I've been able to do and just happy about the people I've been able to meet.
So I looked at your Instagram here, by the way, which is very impressive, more followers than me. So I just want to know, like, how did you get involved with BioSteel? How did that come to be? Did you contact them? Did they contact you? If you can disclose any of that.
BioSteel, great people over at BioSteel. If you want some good hydration, good drink, I definitely recommend. But with the many collaborations I've been able to do, I say many, and it hasn't even been that much, so not really many. But with the collaborations I've been able to do, they contacted me asking me, if I would be up for this, if I wanted to become an influencer or ambassador, however you like to say it. And from there, I just created my promo code. If you want to go check that out. Built a relationship with there, creating videos, creating content, and it hasn't been too long. It's just been over about a month now, but they contacted me. Great over there, down in Windsor, Ontario, and it's been a good time ever since.
Now, if you want to get a 20% off from your BioSteel, use code ZSHockey1 to refresh yourself with BioSteel drinks. What's your favorite BioSteel flavor? Oh, he's got the white one.
I'd probably say White Freeze. This is, I don't know if you can really see it, but it's hard to see. But yeah, White Freeze. If you ever literally had those White Freezies, that's exactly what it is. Just really good.
My favorite is the blue. I love the blue.
Blue's good.
But unfortunately, like where I am now, you don't see it a lot anymore. Like, I don't see it a lot where I am. The people that used to work at my work, like I work at a roller rink, and we have a snack stand there, and they used to have BioSteel, and that's where we would get a lot of it. And they swapped to Prime, which Prime's okay, but it's so freaking sweet. I don't know. I like BioSteel more. Carter, what's your favorite BioSteel flavor?
It's gotta be White Freeze, or you can't go wrong with Pink Lemonade.
It's true.
Yeah, I like Pink Lemonade too. I remember like I think it was like a year ago.
We ranked sports drinks. I remember that. I remember
Jack had BioSteel last, and we both flipped out on him. We're like, seriously? Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, so it also says here in your bio that you were featured on Bar Down and Bleacher Report Open Ice. How did that happen? Did they contact you, or did they just randomly feasure your stuff?
So they randomly
that's never happened to me, so.
They randomly featured my stuff. That was earlier, I guess, for my main account where I was doing skits on there. It was actually my Hockey Dad skits. And one of them was at the rink. I think both videos might have been the same one, but one of them was at the rink, like my local one. It was just like Hockey Dad stances and ways that they would like do stuff, and that's how it was featured on there. I hope that soon one of my takes would be featured on one of these. However, sometimes they're a little bit atrocious, so I don't know if that's going to happen. Unless you want some clickbait, then there you go. But
great bait.
But no, yeah, they just. I think they just featured them, tagged me like that. I think it was just on TikTok and Instagram as well. So they didn't really say anything. They just kind of did it. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Great for me. But yeah, no, it's just some Hockey Dad stuff, just some skits there. I want to do more of those actually, but not right now. I can't.
Bring back the skits.
Yes.
Start the movement. Bring back the skits. All right, so let's transition over to hockey here. You are a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, unfortunately. Or fortunately. I mean, like, I'm not trying to disrespect you. How do you feel the Leafs did this offseason with their moves?
I mean, when you look at their team, it was something that they direly needed to address, which was their defense. And, I do think that they did a decent job at that. But, yeah, I mean, you look at the contracts that they had to give, a lot of it was more term than anything. Chris Tanev getting $4.5 million, 6 years. The back end of that, it's going to be a little tough. But, it's something that you just kind of have to deal with at that point. Like, if you have to get that value for the short term of 3 or 4 years, and then the rest, it's that LTIR push. If he actually gets to that, then okay. You get Oliver Ekman-Larsson at $3.5 million, I believe, at about 4 years as well. And okay, so you get a good puck-moving defenseman. That's one thing you needed. He brings that caliber of knowing how to win, and he's been in the league for a while. And he's about 33. So again, the contract depending on how you look at it, could be good, could be bad towards the end. But the one thing they needed to address was the defense. And then you go to look at goaltending, another question for the Leafs. How is Woll going to look, especially going from looking like an absolute starter in the future to having injuries, getting that extension, and then you bring in Stolarz, who looked good but hasn't had that long like experience of games. So you're really gonna have to see how that looks. And then there's the offense. I mean, same top six, bottom six looks rough. So there's a lot. There's so many questions for the Leafs, but I do think they addressed the most important part, was the defense, which I still think is, it's not bad, but I wouldn't say it's like the best in the league. There's betters. But, it's what it is, I guess, for the Leafs right now.
What would you say is your favorite move they made, and what is your least favorite move they made? I don't know if you touched in on that, but...
No, I didn't. Is this including, like, trades or just extensions or anything like that? Or
yeah, it can include trades, extensions, hirings, sign it, doesn't matter.
I mean, Craig Berube as the coach, I'm a really big fan of that. I don't know if that counts, especially for players in the offseason, but I really did like that addition. I think he should bring a certain type of feel to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll tell you one move I don't like. I didn't like the Ryan Reeves contract last year. I still don't like it, but
yeah, I'm not a fan of that either, to be honest with you.
I mean, I do like them re-signing Timothy Liljegren, on the contrary to some opinion. $3 million, I mean, it's 2 years. You'll see how that goes. But he does have a lot of potential. Will he reach that potential? We'll see. But if he does, he's going to be solid puck moving. He's not the most gritty guy, but he can produce some offense. Maybe he plays in the future if he's still on the Leafs power play number 2. That spot's obviously going to be taken over by Morgan Rielly unless something happens, but I really did like that RFA extension, however you want to talk about it. And then probably my actual favorite was the Max Domi contract, $3.75 million for 4 years. That's just solid value. If you want to talk about passion, then Max Domi has that, and that's what you're looking for, especially for a guy who wanted to take a literal discount compared to some other names that you can mention.
I think it's perfect value. I think for what Domi brings to the table, again, he brings the passion. He brings he brings pretty much everything to the table, including amazing edits on his Instagram. Touching over to the goalies. So you got Joseph Woll extended to a $3.6 million contract for the next 3 years, starting in 2025, 2026. You got Anthony Stolarz locked up for the next 2 seasons, who was a backup in Florida, but did play pretty well and is also a NordCast legend. How do you feel about the goaltending? I know you kind of touched base on it a little bit, but I think Woll can be the legitimate starter, in my opinion.
I mean, well, let's address the one thing. Stolarz was supposed to be a Vezina goalie, so let's just put that out there. Remember that he was supposed to be a Vezina guy.
He was, yes.
But that speaks to his numbers, right? Like, if you looked at his numbers throughout the season, you'd be like, oh my god. But then you look at the games played, you're like, okay. So for Joseph Woll, he could easily be a start in this league. We saw that in the playoffs. We saw that earlier in the year before he got hurt. That one game against the Senators, the one that pops out at me, when the game he got hurt, he was playing absolutely unreal. The Leafs shouldn't have won that. The Sens were all playing him. But he could easily be a goalie. It's just about, will he play up to his value at 3.67? Because True Living is banking on that he doesn't get hurt and that he keeps playing the way that he does. And again, does he get hurt, right? Is this going to continue? Because if not, then okay, fine. I'll take that contract because he's probably going to live up to it, whatever. But if he does, then you're leaning on Anthony Stolarz, who, again, could play good at $2.5 million at 2 years, but doesn't have that track record of being a goalie who can play long amounts of games. And then, then you go to Matt Murray, and it's like, okay. Well,
yeah, there's Matt Murray. Just your third string who might play 1 or 2 games a season.
Yes.
If all your guys are injured. I think Stolarz can be a serviceable backup. I think that he got kind of rejuvenated in Anaheim, had a really good year in Florida. I think that he can be a serviceable backup. It's just a matter of Woll staying healthy. Like, yes, Stolarz can be a really good backup, but only a backup. I don't see Stolarz being the starting guy if Woll... Well, unless if Woll gets hurt for like a very short period of time, then Stolarz can fill in for a couple of games. But I'm not fully on board with Stolarz being the number 1 guy. That's my biggest thing that I'm trying to say. So transitioning over to rookies. Easton Cowan, Fraser Minton, is it possible one of those guys, or even someone that I'm not mentioning, makes the team in training camp?
I mean, you look at their team and stare at the bottom 6 for a good amount of time because it's not going to change. The Leafs have, I think it's about, it might be $1 million, it might be less actually. They might have to deal with something, but that bottom 6 is looking rough. Like it is something to look at. I mean, Pontus Holmberg, Nick Robertson isn't signed, so you can't even put him in that equation. Connor Dewar.
He wants
right?
out.
He wants out. And that sucks for the Leafs because you need players who can produce at low numbers. So that sucks for the Leafs. You have Ryan Reeves, Cal Yarncroc, David Kampf, and then Bobby McMahon. So there's some potential, but it's not veteran experience. It's not guys that you know what you're getting out of them. It's not a good scoring one. So if you're looking at Easton Cowan and Fraser Minton, will he make it? Like maybe, he had a good camp last year. It's possible, but probably not. And if you're Treliving and you're looking at this, you're like, okay, well, Robertson might want out. Maybe I go and look for a trade. Maybe I go and look for somebody who can swap that for. But he might be banking on the fact that Easton Cowan will take this role and run with it, which is very advantageous. Like you're hoping that he really grabs this. And I mean, does he? Maybe. But this is also a kid who you drafted not too long ago. Again, had a good season with the London Knights, won a trophy, and can come back here and maybe have another good season. But are you really going to throw him in on like the 4th line? Maybe the 3rd line, okay. But it's tough, right? You can maybe bank on it, but it's not something that you really want to hold. I could see him making it more than Minton, but at that same time, you're going to have to fight for it. He's not just letting the position go, but you're going to have to fight for it.
Anything can happen at training camp, and it's still a long ways away. Like, we're literally, I think a little bit under 2 months away from training camp, so anything can really happen. Now, Carter and Zach, hear me out. 1-for-1 deal. Nicholas Robertson for Rutger McGroarty. How do we feel about that?
Robertson for McGroarty. Oh boy, I'm gonna let Carter take this one first.
I'm not touching that. Nord, you know that's stupid and it's not gonna happen.
Come on. No,
it does not happen.
Leafs Twitter will hype it up. Come on.
They will, but it's not gonna happen. Listen. He wants power play role. He's sure as shit not getting it in Toronto if he's not getting it in Winnipeg. Let's set that straight. If that's his biggest issue, he's not getting it in Toronto. There's not a chance he's sniffing power play time.
Yeah, good luck with that. You gotta get better than what? Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Tavares, Marner, and right. Yeah, no.
Yeah, if you're struggling to beat out Mark Scheifele for that role, you're sure as shit not touching Austin Matthews.
It's definitely something Toronto needs, an entitled young kid.
Oh, you know what? Just add it to that. Why not?
Exactly.
Actually, you know what? One of them's bound to work.
Yeah, I mean, hey, why not? So, last question I got here for the Leafs with you. I don't know if we asked you this in April, but now that we're past them losing and it's not going to happen, what are your thoughts on them keeping the core 4? Were you for it? Were you against it at the time? What are your thoughts on that?
It's so hard because at the time, I mean, I don't know what day we were talking, like what point the series was in.
I think it was like the middle of the series. I don't know if it was like 3-1 Boston or that, but I know it was the middle of the series.
Let's just say it's 3-1 Boston or like 3-0 Boston, whatever, something like that. So. Oh yeah, it wasn't even 3-0 Boston. Yeah, so 3-1 Boston. They had the Leafs in a chokehold. Yeah, they end up going to Game 7 but lose. So for me, I was the guy who was saying it's time for this to end. And I say that because, and I was saying that before a little bit too, because even though, and you can see it, Mitch Marner has led the Toronto Maple Leafs in points and playoff points, and you look at that, you're like, oh my God, what? Like how? This guy has been. It feels like he hasn't been good. For me, Mitch Marner can perform. A lot of the times it looks like he's not performing, but the thing is when he makes those mistakes, it's just like Justin Holl when he was on the Leafs. When he makes mistakes, it is extremely noticeable, and especially for a guy who's getting paid $10.9 million and is supposed to be showing up and is supposed to be your elite guy, it's just gonna, the magnifying glass is gonna be on him a lot more. So for Mitch Marner, I wanted the core 4 to blow up, even though that, Tavares and him are coming off the books next season, potentially. I say that because Marner might actually get an extension. But for this specifically, I think that it would have been the time to do it. maybe you go and get some assets on the defensive end. Maybe you go and add a goalie or really spread out the wealth per se on the offensive side or on the forward, sorry. But I was under the impression that should happen because you're not trading Austin Matthews. You don't do that. You just gave Willie Nylander a contract coming off a career year, and he actually shows up in the playoffs. You saw it. Willie Nylander, man, the guy fires me up. John Tavares, I mean, you're not trading that contract. Let's be honest. There's 1 year left. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But Mitch Marner's the only one that has value. However, now you want to trade him. So I say blow it up. It looks like they're not going to do it. Probably not going to do it. And it looks like potentially they might actually get him an extension. We'll see. But yeah, it's just an interesting time for Leafs fans, especially for the ones that wanted him gone.
I think that they keep Marner. I'm at the point where they keep Marner. I think if there was an opportunity to trade him, it would have been in the off. It would have been before the draft. With Tavares, I don't know. There's a chance they just let him walk in free agency. There's a chance they bring him back on a more team-friendly contract. If Tavares came back on a team-friendly deal, how would you feel about that?
I'd be fine with it. I mean, like, you've seen, like, you can see his production going down, and of course the number is not, like, $11 million is not going to be, I think he was like about 60-ish points. Okay, yeah, that's not an $11 million player, but you didn't sign him at that time for
yeah, he was signed points. 2018, so.
Right, so for Tavares, you just kind of have to, if he wants to take a team-friendly deal, which I could see it happen, his family is happy to be here, he wants to be in Toronto, and, we'll see how that looks next year. But if he signs on a team-friendly deal, whatever that looks like, and I'd hope for about 5 or less, but you kind of see what happens for that, but that's also how he feels, right? His value. He could walk if he wants, that's fine. But I'd welcome it, just depending on the role and what the number is.
Yeah. Imagine he goes back to the Islanders. He just says, I got my stint with Toronto. It's not going to work out. Let's go back to New York.
Oh, man. Imagine
That'd be something. Work. So, I do have one more question for you. I just looked at this.
Yeah.
So, Matthew Knies has 1 more year left on his entry-level contract. What do you think his deal will look like when he re-signs? It could be soon. It could be like literally right now. Tomorrow he could sign. Or it could be down the road. What do you think the deal would be if he signed tomorrow or down the road?
You looked at Matthew Knies last year, and you were kind of hoping for a little bit better of a season. I think he had about 35 points and literally just under the 82 games. So for Matthew Knies, you could be looking at a bridge deal. I mean, it's definitely possible for a guy like him. However, I could see the Leafs wanting to offer him something long term because you know what you're getting out of this kid. He works hard. He throws his body. He chips in on the points. Now you can say how you want to say that because he's playing with the bigger boys and maybe he's just getting that kind of flow off. But you probably I could see it being between about 4 to 5. On a term that maybe is longer. Now, if it's a bridge deal, then it's something different. Maybe you see about 3.5. But if I had to guess, and I'm not the best at guessing contracts, but if I had to guess, you'd probably see about 4 to 5.5. And that's just being the Leafs with the cap and also banking on what type of player you think he's going to be. All of those things in between. Matthew Knies is probably going to be a Leaf.
Knowing your luck, he's going to have a career year next year and score like 35 goals or something like that. Have an unreal year. That's just.
I hope so, man. That'd be great.
No, that's not just Leafs. That's just like NHL. Like players will just have career years in their contract year. Well, Carter, you have any questions for Zach?
I got one. Past and present, who's been like the one? Like, doesn't have to be just Leafs. Who's been the one player that you like have to watch play hockey?
Oh, man.
Like, you got nothing to do. You're like, I'm going to turn... Oh, this guy's playing. I got to make sure I watch him play. Who's your box office guy?
Is it, like, other than the Leafs?
Yeah, it could be Leafs, too. Like, it doesn't matter, but...
I watch the Leafs a lot, so I'd probably just say Austin Matthews. The guy scores just on a crazy level. But if it's somebody that's not on the Leafs, I've weirdly become a Red Wings fan a little bit because of my fantasy hockey. But I love Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin is just a work hard type of player, head down, plays for the Wings, original 6 team, puts up the points, leads. It's awesome. I love the way he's quick too. And he's quick with it, plays around some good guys. Dylan Larkin's probably one guy that I really do like. And another kid that I've looked at now, and I say kid because he's actually younger than me, at least I think he is Brock Faber. Like, He has the 1 year, and for me, I said this in one of my rankings. I'm like, I'm not going to put him higher than more to prove. But if he does this again, like, man, turning into a number one defenseman right off the bat, like, you kidding me? Leads power play, leads, like, he's good defensively. He almost put up 50 points in his rookie year, and there was calls for him to win the Calder over Bedard, which was crazy because he had 61 points. But you could debate it because he looked that good. So, for me, probably Larkin. I love his game. That's like the first one that popped in my mind. But a little bit of Brock Faber would probably be the one guy I'd look at too.
Imagine Brock Faber and Zeev Buium together. That's like your pairing of the future right there. Man, we don't talk about it enough, but Minnesota, they have such a bright future. It's unreal. They have so many prospects in the pipeline. They just got a steal in Buium. They got that late guy, Anton Kiviharu, who was projected to be a higher pick like a couple of years back.
Yeah. Man,
they could really have a bright future. Not adding in the guys they have too. Carter, any more questions for him?
Yeah, I got one thing. This was one thing Nordic wanted me to bring up with you, and I'm glad you brought up Brock Faber and having something a little more to prove, because putting him in that tier, because Nordic wanted me to bring up, you have Jake Sanderson in that spot, and I know that is one thing that you got a lot of heat for on Instagram, especially from Nordic's co-host LeBlanc. You wanna? Yeah. I'll let you. Listen, I think he does still have he's been a little shaky. I still think he has a little bit more to prove, but I'm gonna let you defend this take that you have.
So I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the podcast, and like how I see players is that if they have like a really good year, like other than Bedard, because like it's absolutely exceptional, you know what you're gonna get. I like to see guys as I want to see it happen again, because you can't, like, my ranking was ranking Eastern Conference NHL teams top defensemen. I did this with goalies, wingers. The next one I'm gonna do is centerman. So
yeah, I saw your list. They were sorry to interrupt. They were mostly good.
It's okay. I don't. Everybody can have their own opinion. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the debate. I'm okay with someone ripping me in the comments. It's okay. But for that specifically, Jake Sanderson, back-to-back 30-plus point years. In the second year, so last season, he really rounds out his game. Looks good. Going to be easily the number one pairing defenseman on the Ottawa Senators, unless Thomas Chabot just absolutely wakes up and becomes the guy they thought he was going to be. But for Jake Sanderson, like you said, Carter, he does have a little bit more to prove in my eyes. I want to see him take that next step. And you could put him in the solid, maybe the elite tier. He's not going to go in top dogs. He's not there yet. But like, let's look at the guys. Zach Werenski has done this for his career. Definitely hasn't lived up to potential, but still very solid. Moritz Seider, you can make that debate very much. Gustav Forsling, you could debate elite. He's probably, for me, he's in solid. But if I look at the guys in there, Erik Karlsson, Morgan Rielly, John Carlson, Dougie Hamilton, who have done this, for me, Jake Sanderson, he just needs to take like a little bit more of a step. I think he has more to prove, especially just doing a little bit more for a Sens team that badly needs something different. And I think he's going to do that. I really do think he's going to do that. So it's no hate to Jake Sanderson. I met the guy, really nice guy. But Jake, I mean, like, it's just a little bit more of a step. And you know what, LeBlanc, I know you didn't like it, and that's fair. But it's just a little bit more of a step that I would want from him. And it's no hate on him. He's easily going to round out his game, and I could see him take that step into the solid or elite tier as early as next season, like the first 10 games. Like, I just want to see a little bit more.
I see the vision. I see the vision in what you're saying and the way you critique your players. I see it. And I like it. I'm not sure if LeBlanc will like it, but I like it. All right, so transitioning out of just flaming Zach for his takes, which, by the way, why the heck is Cam Talbot in... No, I'm kidding. Anywho, so we got some news to report on. We're going to start off with... what should we start off with? We'll start with the MICHKOV stuff. So Matvei Michkov has come over from Russia officially as of a couple days ago, and the media has been going wild. You see him walking in with Danny Briere and Keith Jones. Keith Jones looks like he's having the time of his life in all the photos that you see. You got Michkov. His English is way better. He has a press conference. Danny Briere says that he showed Michkov a video of Nick Delorier beating the shit out of Matt Rempe and said, "That's your best friend." And then, today, the Flyers extended Travis Konechny to an 8-year, $8.75 million contract. So me and Carter are both Flyers fans, so we're going to go about this in a second. But I want to know Zach's thoughts on the Konechny extension before we get into the rest. What do you think?
I mean, I didn't do anything like special. I think I just did like a post my story. But the Konechny extension it's what it is. I mean, like, you know, I think it was 8.75 for 8 years extension. I mean, Travis Konechny, solid player. He's a leader on the Flyers. And that's and just in the contract alone, you're looking for that when you're putting in a number, and that's great. I think I don't know if he's had 70 points, but he's had like a couple like 61s, maybe just under 70. Good player. 8.75, it's okay for me. Like, it's not like a steal of contract. It's not an absolutely atrocious contract, but for me, it's in the middle. You know what you're getting out of Konechny. Now, maybe in those later years, we'll see. He's 27. I mean, like, okay. So we'll see what you're going to get out of that, but I don't think it's the worst contract in the world, but is it great? No, it's just okay for me. It's okay for me, and that's okay with Flyers. They think they know where they're going with that, and that's fine. Pay the guy. But if you want to compare, well, you're going to have some interesting comparisons for contracts that were signed earlier. So, I mean,
I have no idea where they're going. Carter, what do you think about the Konechny deal and Michkov coming over? What has been your view on this?
So I'll start it off with Konechny because I feel like I'm going to get way more hyped with Michkov. So I'm going to start with Travis Konechny. I really like this deal for it, honestly, for the Flyers. I think you look at, Zach brought up comparison contracts. I think the one that's the most comparable is Timo Meier, and I think I'd take that Travis Konechny over Timo Meier, especially. I think Konechny puts up a little more points per game. He plays with a little bit more grit than Timo Meier for sure. He's got that edge. He's got that character that, you need in like a leader, and that's who Travis Konechny is. So I agree. I think that this is a great contract. My one thing is the 8 years at $8 million. I think I said this to my dad, and I really hope he finishes his career at the Flyers. But I would not be surprised if in the last year he gets bought out, because it's 34 years old at $8 million. But I don't. Travis Konechny's gotten way better every single year, so I'm hoping he can maintain that up for at least the next 3, 4, or 5 years. Because I think even with that, if you got to shell out, like a $2 million overpay for him, if he's putting up a point per game, I don't think you're going to care for shelling out that little bit extra money there. But I'm very happy with that Konechny deal. I'll go into Michkov, but I'll let you speak on Konechny first, Nord.
So I have been going back and forth with this literally all day. I made my TikTok, my initial thoughts. I was like, at the beginning of the video. Because I am still right now. So on the bright side, Konechny was looking at $9.5 to $10 million. I'm very glad they got him down to below $9 million, because if he signed a $10 million contract, I think I would quit my fandom as a Flyers fan. But I think it's a good contract. It's just a matter of like, it's interesting because I compare it to somewhat a little bit of the Timo Meier deal. Meier was signed to, I think, actually less than Konechny, or a little more than Konechny's being paid right now. Yeah, I think he's like 8.8 or something like that. The thing is, though, with Meier is that the Devils have a really good team that they signed him to that contract, and the Flyers kind of have a mediocre team, to be honest. I look at this team overall. I don't know what to think. I think right now it's a good contract, but I think it shows that they're believing in that the fact that they're going to turn this team around into a contender within the next 2 or 3 seasons. I don't know if I can see that. I don't know if I can see that deep and down my heart, this team being a cup contender by 2026, 2027. But anything can happen in 2 seasons, so I have no idea what to think. Carter, back to Michkov. How are we feeling about Michkov?
Well, I don't think Zach spoke on Michkov, so I'll let you. Did you? I can't remember if you did or not.
No.
All right, I'll let our guest start off by talking about Michkov.
Yeah, sorry. What a horrible host I am.
Well, no, I just didn't even say anything about it. I just I thought it was like Konechny, and then we're gonna do it. Yeah. Anyway, Michkov. One thing.
Let me be honest. He's a Leafs fan, so he sees Michkov coming over. He's like, "Yay, yay, terrific!" Now they have a better goal scorer than Austin Matthews. Ooh. All right, I'll let you keep talking. I had to get a Leafs chirp in.
We'll say, so the one thing we saw in that, and then when he came over, You look at the smile on Danny Briere, man. You know what he's doing. He's like, man, I'm turning this team around with these draft picks. Oh, yes. Like, Matvei Michkov, like, you didn't think you were going to be getting this guy this early. And if you're a Flyers fan...
we did not.
I am excited. I am so excited. I'm a Leafs fan. I'm excited to see this kid play. He could easily win the Calder. He's going to have some competition very much. But, like, this is we got a steal. And, then, like, at the time and now, it's extremely... Like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because I'm so excited to watch this kid. Like, Matvei Michkov is... His shooting ability, creating space and opportunities on his own. Like, this is a kid that can do it. He can run a play, he can run a line, whatever, power play, however you want to say it. He is the it factor that you look for when you're describing a prospect. And for Matvei Michkov, it's hype. That's what you're looking for. And for Flyers, this is exactly what you wanted. This is a team who definitely, like, overachieved last year and then towards the end kind of, had that tough bounce. But for them, this is the guy that you want coming in after a season like that. Give the fans some hope and build around him, and whatever you want to think about that with the Konechny contract and having him there too. Okay, that's his best buddy, just like Nick Delorier is when he's on the ice. But for this specifically, Matvei Michkov is exceptional talent. There was a point in time where people were talking about him, not comparing him to the full extent, but in terms of skill to Bedard and just that little tier lower, I'd be so excited. And as a Leafs fan, I'm excited. As a hockey fan, I'm excited. And for you guys, I'm extremely excited because that's going to be some fun hockey to watch. And I hope that when he comes over, you grab a tarp because that's going to be a damn nice tarp.
He's got to be, let me just say, he has got to be the most humble Leafs fan I've ever met in my life. I feel like if we were talking to another Leafs fan, he'd be like, Matthews is way better than, yeah, what a humble guy this is.
Matthews is better.
I just like to say that Matvei Michkov versus Cutter Gauthier in the Calder race is going to be movie-worthy. You better mark your tickets for when Anaheim comes to Philadelphia because that is going to be one hell of a game to watch. I remember even Carter said in a podcast episode that he would come down to Philly to watch them play the Ducks.
Oh, so Carter, I still mean that. I will be there. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I will be there for that game. Because the amount that is probably going to be the loudest. It's okay. I was about to say Wells Fargo Center, but it's not Wells Fargo Center anymore because they completely ditched that name.
Wawa Arena.
Yeah, the Wawa place. That place. That's going to be the loudest that place has ever been since probably playoff hockey in Philadelphia, because I don't think Sixers basketball is touching like hockey fans at all. That place is gonna be louder than anything, and I am so excited to try and be there for that because that is gonna be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I don't care. The Flyers could be winless at that point, and that arena is still gonna be packed. I will put money on that.
Oh, but yeah, absolutely.
I am getting off topic here. The main topic here is Matvei Michkov. Holy fuck, am I excited! He comes off the plane. He's walking out with Danny Briere. The first picture of him, he's wearing a Philadelphia Phillies hat. You cannot tell me this guy was not excited to come to Philadelphia.
Prepare for disappointment. That's all I'm going to freaking say, though. Prepare for disappointment wearing a Phillies hat. I mean, they are first in the league, so I can't really, or are they?
Yeah,
they've been kind of mid.
They are. But anyways, I'm so excited. As soon as I am able to buy a Michkov tarp, that is going to be the first. I don't even own a real Flyers jersey anymore. This one that's been back here the whole time, everyone knows from the podcast, I fucking made this at my old job. It's just a heat-pressed Jamie Drysdale that I got 2 days after it happened. Like,
he made that after Cutter got traded. He's like, fuck it. I'm getting a Drysdale jersey.
But I don't have a real Flyers jersey. My last one was Nolan Patrick. That didn't pan out well at all. And now I have a fake Drysdale. So I'm in need of an actual jersey, and Michkov's going to be here he's a Flyer for life. I hope. But I'm excited. I think it's still, I still can't believe we got him at 7. And I'm just thinking of like, I want to put this into perspective because this could have been a crazy first line for the rest of time. Could you have imagined we still had Cutter Gauthier, Matvey Michkov, and we were somehow able to trade up to the 4th overall pick and have Demidov? That would have been the craziest line ever. I'm heartbroken that it's never going to happen, because that would have been... That entire line would have scored 60 goals. I don't care. I'm talking about things that didn't happen, but it's okay. I don't give a fuck. Michkov's here. Nothing else matters anymore. My life is good again.
I can't wait until when the Flyers play the Ducks, and it's going to be movie-worthy when Jamie Drysdale, off the opening faceoff, levels Cutter Gauthier against the board. Or not against the boards. Open ice levels him like Giroux did in 2012. Michkov comes down the other way, walks through Mintyukov, or whoever hell's playing defense for the Ducks these days, and then snips one top corner on Gibson, and the arena goes insane. I can't wait for that 12 seconds into the game. All right, anywho. Yeah, Michkov, it's terrific. It's absolutely spectacular that he's coming over. Connect knee extension, interesting, but there is a long way to go before the Flyers become cup contenders. So, Carter's shaking his head. We'll see. So, we're going to move into much more serious news here, and I feel like I probably should have started off with this. Stan Bowman, I don't mean to compare, I'm so sorry. Stan Bowman has been named the Oilers general manager and executive vice president of hockey operations. For those who do not know, the former Blackhawks GM was ruled eligible to return to the NHL along with Joel Quenneville on July 1st. They were both ineligible due to sexual assault allegations that were confirmed, and they were banned for 2.5 years, or 2.5 years, and have been reinstated recently. And the Oilers, like they've been before, have not been afraid to make controversial hires. All right, Zach, I'm going to start with you since you're our wonderful guest. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, look, if you follow me on Instagram, I made a story about this, talking about Stan Bowman being hired by the Oilers. I didn't personally, with Quenneville, Bowman, and everyone else involved, I didn't really want them back in the league. I didn't really think that they deserved it. I think that, playing in the NHL, being in the NHL, and whatever capacity it is, and as I mentioned before, whether you're scraping the ice or you're the GM or whoever, it is an absolute privilege to be involved. And I think that they lost that opportunity and that privilege, and it's a shame that the Edmonton Oilers didn't see that. And clearly, I don't know from other NHL teams, but they didn't sound like they were trying to hire him, and it was only the Oilers, and it's a shame that he did get hired, and I'm afraid that it looks like that kind of might open the door for Quenneville, and I hope it doesn't, because in this case, this was a guy who was knowingly keeping things from the light in a playoff time where they, if I could be wrong, but if I'm correct, pretty much just said, we don't want this right now, we're trying to focus on more important things. Come on. Like, it's just it's tough to see that, and you know what, he can say what he wants if he talked to Kyle Beach and had conversations with him, which I would hopefully expect him to do, whether that means apologizing or checking in on him or doing whatever, but I don't really think that condones the behavior. I don't really think it makes it better that you told him about it, and for me, it's just like, it's just tough to see. Like, I don't care what relationship you have with the guy prior to, during, or after, that being Stan Bowman with the Edmonton Oilers. It's just... and you know what? He's not even a good GM either. Like, he took over the Chicago Blackhawks at a time where they had all the pieces. Like, they had everyone that they needed. And you know what? You can say what you want about the things in between where they won their first cup and when they won their last cup in that time. But look at his track record. Look at his track record. Like, this was he didn't manage the team well after that time. He didn't try to keep it going. He didn't try to, and remember, this was the guy, Brandon Saad, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I was going to bring this up. He traded Brandon Saad 3 times. Brandon Saad 3 times. And
also responsible for Artemi Panarin. But there's so much you can say about him, but the real thing about this is that, he shouldn't be in the league. He shouldn't have been allowed back in the league. You can have your reasoning for it. I don't care. He shouldn't be allowed back in there. For someone who wants to work in hockey, wherever that takes me, whether it means I'm working for a team, myself, talking about it, I don't know. It's just, it's really awful.
Scandal aside, let's say, all right, let's say that was pushed aside, and he's not even a good GM. Like, as Zach said, like, again, he traded Brandon Saad 3 times. He moved out Artemi Panarin for Brandon Saad. He made one of the worst trades in recent memory involving the Seth Jones deal. And I remember at the time, because I made videos at the time. The podcast wasn't around, but I made videos at the time. And I remember just getting so pissed off with the moves that he made. Because he saw Chicago in that weird bubble year, like, kind of do well. And he was like, oh, we're a playoff team. Let's go to the playoffs, guys. And then he goes trades for Seth Jones and moves out young defenseman Adam Boquist, a first-round pick, which was taken with Cole Sillinger. Sillinger's been on and off since then, but he can still become a solid player. They traded their 2022 first-round pick, which was selected with David Jiricek. Or was it Jiricek? I'm not 100% sure, but they definitely, I think they got, I don't remember, I have to look that up. They traded their 2022 first-round pick, which is top 2 protected, so I'm assuming that they didn't use that pick, they didn't get that pick back, and then it was just so weird. And they signed Seth Jones to an 8-year, $9.5 million extension that just made 0 sense, and the Blackhawks just bottomed out the following year. The scandals were involved, and you know what? They got Connor Bedard! So, that's just how it is. But I think this is really stupid. I don't know why the Oilers would even entertain this. On a level, I don't agree with it. I want to say this first. I don't agree with it, but on a level, I can understand why Quenneville would get hired, because he actually has a good coaching history. I would understand Quenneville getting hired. I wouldn't agree with it, but I would understand it. So, yes, they did get David Jiricek in that, with that Chicago pick. So Chicago could have gotten Cole Sillinger or David Jiricek with their picks. Instead, they ended up with what? They ended up with Frank Nazar and Korchinski, which I guess is somewhat better, but they didn't have either of those picks. So I don't know what to think. But Carter, where do you stand on this? I know you're the last person to talk, so you're kind of just repeating us, but where do you stand on this?
I don't know. Not only should Stan Bowman not be back in the league, even if he was allowed, like, even if he did nothing wrong, like, if this whole situation doesn't happen, he shouldn't be in the league anyways. He's not a good GM. Like, he's not. But I don't know what the Oilers see in him. Is like, I don't think you can ever look at a guy after hearing things that were told to him and he did nothing about, especially things that serious. You can't look at someone the same way. Like, if I told you that, oh, I knew that this person killed someone, but I didn't say anything, you would look at me completely differently, right? Like,
yeah,
the amount of respect that Stan Bowman is not going to have because of this whole situation, it's going to hurt the Oilers more than anything. You can go after any GM who has at least a little bit of respect left in the league, and you can make something happen. But Stan Bowman has no respect in the league. I don't get it. So not a good GM. He's not a good person for that. Like, it's horrible. And then obviously this, like, as you said, or one of you two said, this is going to open the door for Quenneville to come back. And is he a good coach? Yeah, he coached some good Chicago teams, right? But it's the same thing as Stan Bowman. He knew about this. He did nothing. He's going to lose a lot of respect, and especially when the respect comes from in the locker room. You're face-to-face with the players every day. You need as much respect as possible. You'll have the respect as a coach, but they will not respect you as a man.
Yeah. I don't know. Just kind of a disgraceful hiring, to be honest. So we're going to move out of that, moving into more positive things. It's crazy how we go from Matvei Michkov and being so happy to something so serious. Now we're going to go back to something somewhat happy. What is happening to the remaining restricted free agents currently? So there are a lot of guys who are coming off of entry-level contracts or guys who are coming off of bridge deals who are still restricted free agents on their respective teams. And today we're going to talk about what their contracts could look like with their new team. So we're going to start off with two free agents on the same team, Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider. So let me pull up the Red Wings cap wages, cap space real quick. Shout out to cap wages. A brand new thing for cap friendly. So the Red Wings have, it looks like $16 million, 16.9, almost $17 million in cap space. And they both need to sign Raymond and Seider. Do you guys think that it's possible? I'll start with Zach. Do you think it's possible that they both get locked up to the same contract? If so, how much?
I think you can easily see it. I mean, you look at Moritz Seider, a guy who, throws the body, puts points on the board, does a lot. We were talking about Sanderson with him. They're both extremely good defensemen, and they're going to get paid. They are going to get paid, and that being Lucas Raymond as well, a guy who was up there leading the Detroit Red Wings in points, along with some other guys too. And you could easily debate them having something between about $7 to $8.5 million, whatever they'd be looking at, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I really wouldn't. And if they got less than $7, all the Steve Yzerman, maybe the Yzer plan is working finally. But for both of them, you could see very similar contracts. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised. And I could see it between that $7.5 or $7 to $8.5 million long term. These contracts are complicated. There's another contract that I'm thinking of in my head that I know we'll probably talk about that I don't really think should be complicated, but with Moritz Seider and Raymond themselves, you could easily see very similar contracts, and they're probably going to look really good in the future once signed, especially with the cap going up.
So, Quentin Byfield got signed to, I think it was a 5-year, 5.5, let me look real quick. So a 5-year, $6.25 million deal. Do you guys see Raymond and Seider getting paid more than them? Yes or no?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Do you guys think Raymond and Seider could get paid more than Travis Konechny, who just signed an 8-year, 8.75? Konechny's a little different because he's a little bit older, but do you guys see that happening?
I could see them getting north of 8 for sure.
Yeah,
I think Seider I think will make more than Raymond, because he's got the Calder, and I think that, don't get me wrong, Raymond had a great year this year, but I think that if I had to pick, I know they play two different positions, but I think Moritz Seider's a bigger piece to that team than Lucas Raymond would be.
I don't know. I never viewed it that way. Do you think they'll get? You guys said north of 8. Are you in the camp that he will get paid more than $9 million or lower than $9 million, or is it just in between $8 million?
I'd say lower than 9.
It'd be around 8.5, I think.
Yeah, that's I think honestly, they have $17 million in cap space. Lock both them up to an 8.5 for both. If you could get them for less, that's spectacular. But I think maybe even just 8.5 for both would be awesome. Moving into the next two guys, the Carolina Hurricanes are in a pickle. The Red Wings are in a much better spot, but the Hurricanes are, I guess, for the term of a better word, they're in a hurricane right now. They have $8.1 million in cap space, and they are desperately in the need to sign Seth Jarvis and Marty Necas to contracts. So Jarvis is coming off of his entry-level contract, and Necas is coming off of a bridge deal, which was worth $2.5 million. So I'll ask you guys this question, because the Hurricanes might not be able to keep both of them. Who would you say is more valuable to the team, Necas or Jarvis? I feel like we spoke on this before, Carter.
Carter, go ahead.
It's Seth. It's Seth Jarvis.
It's Carter's boy Jarvis. I think that's blatantly obvious by the way both these guys play. Seth, where do you stand on that?
I mean, honestly, at a standpoint for the team and just value-wise, it's Seth Jarvis. I mean, that Jarvis wants to stay. You know what he can do. He can score. He's a good guy in the room, from what it looks like. And then, not to say that Necas isn't a good person, but, it looks like he might want to leave and, he doesn't want to stay. And, that can rub off some people the wrong way. Some might look at that and say, okay, you know what? Do what you want to do. Go get your contract. Others may look at you're quitting on us. Okay, that kind of sucks. So, from a lot of perspectives, I'd say Jarvis. Necas is a very good player, but I don't see him staying. Maybe he does on a year. Who knows?
So Jarvis had 67 points, 33 goals in 81 games played this past year, which was, I think, a step a massive step from the year before. He had 39 points in 22-23. Necas this past year actually had the opposite. He went from a impressive 70-point season to a 50-point year in less games played, I believe, though. So he did miss a couple games in there. But regardless, it was a much worse year for Marty Necas. I think if you were to lock both of them up, it would be both to $4 million contracts. But I think Jarvis is way more valuable than $4 million. Do you guys think? I am of the camp that I think Jarvis would get paid more than Byfield. What do you think?
Yeah, you could easily see it. Byfield is a different player than Jarvis. Jarvis scores, and those are valuable in the NHL. So I could see him getting more than Byfield. That if you got, what was it? I think Byfield got 5.5 or something like that. And then if you said
6.25.
Yeah, so if Jarvis gets a little bit more than that, or 6, is it a lot? Yeah, it's a lot. But the guy can score. You know what you're getting out of him, or hopefully at least for the next year. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, moving into the next. Oh wait, Carter. What was I going to ask you? Oh, moving into the next player. I don't know what I was doing. Cole Perfetti, Winnipeg Jets forward, has, even though been barely cracking the top 6, been barely cracking the Jets lineup, he has been a very impressive forward for the team. Carter, he is coming off of his ELC. How much are you signing him to? If you're the Jets, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff right now. Actually, no. If you're GM Carter, what would you sign Perfetti to right now? The Jets currently have, if I can find them here real quick, they have $6 million in cap space.
Well, if I was GM, I think we would have a lot more than this much in cap space.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Because probably Rutger McGroarty would have been gone by now, or whatever.
No, Stanley would be in China right now.
That's very fair.
I don't know. I think I'd have to see him play a prominent top 6 role before I'm shelling out money to him, because I'll be honest, he has the potential to be our number 2 center for sure. But he hasn't been given a fair shot. That's what I'm going to say. He has not been given a fair shot to play. We've been playing him on a checking line, and we've been playing him on the 4th line. We have to start putting him on the 2nd line. All that is hindering him right now is his confidence, because we're not giving him ice time. And he hasn't gone out and complained about it or anything like that, as far as I'm aware. He might have been, I don't know, and it hasn't gotten out. I don't know. But what I am going to say is, they got to give him some real ice time. But that's what our coach is going to do this year, is he's going to try and give the young guys some top line minutes. So hopefully that's what happens. But yeah.
Or are you of the camp that he will get a bridge deal?
I think he will get a bridge deal, yes.
So I'm looking at the guys here. It looks like, do you think he will get more than $3 million? Do you think?
He should. I think $3 million is probably fair for him.
Yeah. Probably like a 3-year deal.
As I feel like I know Cole Perfetti's potential. I've watched this guy play, but he's just been, the amount of posts this guy hit last year was insane. I think if the Jets are like, this guy is going to be our future, I think you could sign him to a long-term deal at $5 million. And if his potential pans out, I think you're looking at a great contract. His potential doesn't pan out and he stays kind of how he is, looks like a little bit of an overpay, but I don't think you're sweating over it. So yeah. It's a risky move for them to take, because they could take the bridge deal, save money now, or they could play the long game and sign him to a lower amount of contract than what he's probably going to ask for in 2-3 years, right? So I'd like to see him get signed to a long-term deal, because I think potential-wise I'd love to keep him long-term. And I also kind of think that he's only going to get better, so it'll just save the Jets a lot more cap kind of down the road.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Perfetti would work out on that type of contract. There's actually a lot of interesting names here on the list. I've been looking through it. So we'll go through a couple more. Thomas Hartley, solid defensive defenseman for Dallas. We'll see how much he gets, but I think he could get upwards of $5 million, to be honest, with the way he plays defensively with the Stars. What do you think?
I mean, I think you're underrating Harley a bit. I don't know. Defensive.
I think he could get paid more. I'm not saying he couldn't. But...
No. I on the contract, I don't think you're way off. But for Thomas Harley, like that's if we're gonna talk about a season to do it correctly, like I mean, he almost puts up 50 points as a defenseman, locked himself in as one of the guys that is going to be the future for the Dallas Stars. Good defensively, good offensively. I traded him in my fantasy hockey league. Why did I do that? I don't know. Don't know why I did that. But for Thomas Harley, like this is a guy who could easily get $5 million more. Like and now if he got less, if he got like 4.5, okay, you know
that's
what?
A steal.
That's a steal.
That's a huge steal.
But I think he gets 5 or more. I think that's pretty easy to say. He's 22. He's a big guy. 55, interesting number. I don't know why I said it, but it's it's going to be an interesting contract. That's one of the contracts I've actually looked at, and I'm thinking like, man, like if you're the Stars, you look at that decor, like get him locked up. But easily in a year where he needed to perform, he performed, and he looked good, looked solid, and he looked very poised and calm, and that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I might be underrating Harley there. I think Harley's been an incredibly valuable defenseman for the Stars. Kirill Marchenko's on this list. I would see him getting probably around the Perfetti deal, maybe a little bit less. I think he gets somewhere around that contract. I don't think he gets locked up to an 8-year extension, but then again, it is Don Waddell, so who knows. Matthew Beniers. We'll touch on Beniers and then 2 more guys. So Beniers had statistically a really down season this past year for the Seattle Kraken, as did Seattle. You know, in 22-23, they make it to the second round. They were 1 game away from the conference finals this past year. They take a massive step back, missed the playoffs, and, you know, overall it wasn't a great year. Beniers had 77 games played. He only had 15 goals this past year for 37 points after having a Calder-winning 57 points in 80 games played in 22-23. So I think that the best case to go here with Beniers is a bridge deal. And it's not going to be... I think he probably gets paid more than Perfetti. Maybe? More than Harley or less than Harley? It depends. I think he's definitely less than like guys like Jarvis and Raymond, but I think that he would get paid more than Perfetti. I don't know about Harley, though. What do you think?
I mean, bridge deal is definitely on the right track. Bridge deal is on the right track.
It's a phone call here.
Sorry, I got to take this. I'll be right back.
Okay. So for many Beniers, I mean, bridge deal's on the right track. I could see him getting about $4 million and in that range. I don't think he gets close to 5, like say if you said like a 4.8, but I could easily see him getting like a 4.175 weird type deal. But for many Beniers, like the thing is that you know what this kid's going to give you, and it sucks that he has this off year, and you see him play like this, and it's just a tough bounce. But for Matty Beniers, 37 points, you know that's not the guy you're going to get, but I'd easily bank on him getting about 4-ish million, something like that, 2 years, easily.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he gets somewhere around there. Dawson Mercer. Mercer is similar to Beniers, only minus the Calder-winning season. He had promising, like in 21-22, looked good with 42 points. In 22-23, had arguably a breakout year with a really good Devils team. Capped 27 on the year, 56 points. This past year, though, he regressed by over 20 points. He's back to 33 points in 82 games played with only 20 goals this past year. I think Mercer can definitely bounce back, but I would see him getting something maybe a little bit less than Beniers, but I think something similar to Beniers' contract. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, you take this one, Carter, if you're good to go.
Yeah, I gotta run in a quick second here, but again, I'll say my take on Dawson Mercer. I really like Dawson Mercer. I think he fits in really nicely in that role with how he is. I don't know the kind of contract he gets because if you're looking at a guy who is up 1 year and then just fell down, do you buy the dip or is it just going to keep tanking? I think, if I'm the New Jersey Devils, you got Jack Hughes on a great deal when he was down low and in the dumps. Like getting Jack Hughes at $8 million is such a steal. Like it is such a steal. So you're not going to get Jack Hughes play out of Dawson Mercer, but I think you could sign him to a really nice team-friendly deal, and I think Mercer does want to stay in New Jersey. So I think you can get him on a nice team-friendly deal for long-term, and I think it would look like a great signing for the Devils.
Yeah. And the last guy that I want to talk about here before we end off this episode is Jeremy Swayman, the only main goalie on the market. Swayman is coming off of, I think, a 1-year deal worth $3.475, which, if you're looking at 1-year deals, that might be the best 1-year deal of this past season. He's going to get a lot of money. But where exactly in that range does he get a lot of money? What do you guys think?
Oh, man.
You see Saros getting paid. Sorry. You see Saros getting paid, I think it was like 7.7 mil or something like that, below $8 million. You see Connor Hellebuyck getting paid, what, 8.25? Do we see Swayman getting paid in that range or more?
He's going to get upwards of 7.
Oh, absolutely.
You should get upwards of 6. And and last year, you could have got him for 6, but you didn't. And you could have had him for term. You didn't. And this guy showed you why. I think he had like a 9-16 or something, like 44 games. Again, you have to see how he plays on a full schedule, and that's fair. That's probably how I would look at it. But, this is Jeremy Swayman, man. This guy has proved to you time and time and time again that he is going to be your guy. He's going to be able to do it, da-da-da-da-da. And yet, they still haven't got a contract done. They still underrate him. They still don't give him respect. And that's at least how I see it. You're dragging it on this long. But, I don't know. Carter, what do you think about this?
He was voted 4th in Vezina voting, if I'm right. I gotta find it real quick. But he wasn't a finalist, but he was up there. Carter, what are your viewpoints on this?
They missed their chance on getting him for cheap.
They did. Boston fumbled pretty hard.
Because he was sitting, he was on a great trajectory and skyrocketed. And you missed your chance. That's one that Boston, I think, will regret, because you probably could have got him at 5.5 to 6.5 last year for sure, somewhere in that range, and now you're gonna have to pay him 7.5, 8, maybe even. You could even be higher than that. So you just lost yourself about $2 to $3 million, which that's a third line depth piece right there.
Yeah.
And that's what Boston just missed out on. So kind of sucks for the Boston Bruins, but as far as Zach is concerned, I don't think he's too mad about that.
Yeah, you look at yeah, exactly. He's probably not concerned about that at all. The UPL extension helps it even more. He got paid $4.75 million for the next 5 years recently. That helps the Swayman deal even more. But above all, lots of solid free agents to be signed. Maybe by the time we make an episode next week, some of them will be signed. But regardless, that's all I got for this episode of the NordCast. Zach, thank you for coming on. I'll let you plug your stuff. Your Instagram, your TikTok?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize I kind of a brain fart there. I was like, what? My Instagram, ZSHockey1, and then TikTok, you'll see it, ZS Hockey, like that, and then all the rest that you'll see in my bio. I don't gotta explain it much more. You can go check that out if you want. If not, all good. LeBlanc doesn't like my takes. I'm just kidding. But
no, I will say this. LeBlanc generally really does like you. We were talking about you before. He does like you.
I've never gotten actually a chance to talk to him.
Meter, which Jack, for the record, is not very high on that approval meter. Just saying.
Me? Oh, that's fair.
No, not you. Our co-host Jack.
No, I'm saying he's not the biggest fan of me.
No, he's the biggest fan of you.
Oh.
No, he's saying LeBlanc isn't the biggest fan of Jack, right?
Oh. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
He thinks Jack is a nice kid. He just thinks that his takes are a little bit he's casual a little bit. Not gonna go there. Anyways, Zach, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. For the first time again, I guess. That will conclude this episode of the NordCast. Carter, any final thoughts for us?
Roll Flyers.
Yeah, roll Flyers. Great time here. What a fun episode this was. So thank you all for watching or listening. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below if you're watching on the YouTube end of things. If you are watching on the audio end of things, be sure to give us a good review, tell your friends, and listen to the other episodes that are featured below. If you want to follow the NordCast Instagram, follow at @NordCast_. If you want to follow the TikTok, follow at NordCast. If you want to follow the Twitter, follow at NordCast. I'm Nordic. That's Carter. That's Zach. Thank you all for watching or listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Adios.